طيب before we go forward ممكن هسأل الموضوع ده وعايز بس واحد أو اتنين يردوا عليا. من ال speeches اللي اتقالت from the past speeches that have been mentioned, any learning outcomes حد تم إضافة أي معارف زيادة ليه something yes which is well in a good way not a bad way and that's a quote in coaching not me. Decisive moments. Good point. Okay. I believe that will be tackled in a couple of presentations from now. Decisive moments and how we can apply this. And disclaimer, FYI, when I said product development, I come from the background of learning and development. So when I say product, I believe that human beings do produce. And they produce services, products, emotions, and a lot more. As a matter of fact, احنا أحسن machines. We're the best machines because we're dynamic. The machine ليها limit. Our limitations are almost numerous. So when I said product, hopefully speaking, what I tried to mention is that we're very glorified. And as coaches, as you coaches, you work with a very, very dynamic and glorified system. Upon which, and to get from product to human beings. Human beings are very malleable. They're very diverse. They're very different. And as coaches, I believe part of what you do is being scientists. You need to understand human endeavor. You need to understand human psyche. You need to know how to deal with people in the best way possible. Whether they're coming from a different background or not, there are certain liabilities and there are certain approaches that can be tackled with each and every person according to the need and according to the situation. That happens within organizations and outside of organizations. Upon which, now we will be presented with a dialogue about bringing back humanity and connection to organizations. True, organizations look at people in the form of competencies. You look at people in the form of products, but yet we're dealing with something very sensitive called human beings. And we need to get the connections back to them. Our people are very adorable people that will be in this.
Thank you.
Will be Samir Hassan, an MCC organizational coach and young leader honoree, which is something I didn't understand what it is, but apparently it is huge. The second part will be Rana Arafa. She's an MC, TV anchor في الأوربت القاهرة اليوم. Before we go forward, الترانسليشن الهيدسيتس بتاعت الترانسليشن موجودة عند البوث اللي ورا. لو حد عايز إن هو يستخدمها يروح ورا ويقدر إن هو يستخدمها. The floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
A round of applause, please.
Thank you, Mo. And at the beginning, I would just like to say صباح الفل, صباح النور, صباح الهنا. In Arabic, أصبح عليكم, and then I'll continue in English. So I hope everybody's having a good time today. I can feel the vibe in the hall. Who am I? I am Rana Arafa. I've been a TV presenter for 17 years of my life in different TV channels. I've been working live shows, recorded videos, recorded TV shows, an anchor, reporter with actors, therapists, doctors, all you can name. Why am I here today? I am here for two reasons. The first reason is that I am honored to be standing beside my mentor, my friend, and my brother, Samir Hassan. That's the first reason. The second reason is that coaching has changed my life. Let's say 15 years ago, when we used to present one of the shows, one of the very well-known shows on OTV, Samir used to talk about healing, coaching, how to self-develop ourselves. And I used to listen and go like, what does that mean? 15 years ago. That's a long time. Nobody knew anything about self-development. Yani everybody knew about self-development, but not about coaching. Nobody knew what's going on. People, it's either a psychiatrist, a psychologist, or a doctor. Then I was like, that's interesting because I found out while I was reading a lot about self-development and coaching, whether life coaching, health coaching, or wellness coaching, I found out that it changes my life. It has been for the past 15 years. Every single information that I used to read and digest, I used to implement on my life. And then when I changed my life, I was able to change my kids' life, and then my family's life, and then eventually my audience life. And then I found that it's a perfect edge for me as a TV presenter, that millions of people watch me on TV, that I can give them something of benefit. I can give them an information, not only talking about stars and gossip and what's happening. So the journey started 15 years ago. I started learning at the beginning. I learned in fitness, in nutrition, and then I found that, because I owned a gym, that something is missing. I need to learn more about the thoughts. Because it's not only how you build your muscles or what you eat, it's how you talk to yourself. It's these thoughts that come every day and they either bring you down or pull you up. And then I went into wellness coaching, which big part of it is all about the thoughts. So basically, these are the two reasons I'm here today. I'm not going to talk about myself or wellness coaching today because I've learned a lot from him. I've learned a lot from him on the personal level and at work. So today it's not about me. It's about what he's going to say. And what he's going to say today is very important because we're talking about humanity in organizations, how to bring humanity back. Organizations doesn't mean in companies. Samir has taught me that organizations can be like a table, people sitting on a table, a connection, two people that are married in the community. So, Samir Hassan, I have to read this from the paper. One of the 6 award-winning Young Leader Award by the ICF, an organizational coach, first Arabic speaker, Arabic coach, and founder of Kun Academy, and of course, my mentor. Samir, thank you for giving me the honor to stand beside you.
Thank you, Rana. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. How am I doing, Robert? Okay, great. Fantastic. Thank you so much for all what have been said. And let me start by saying that I am imperfect. I always like to say in Arabic, naqisun ibnu naqisin. An imperfect, a descendant of imperfections. Did you notice what happened with Magdalena? With Magdalena when she was presenting, and the presentation was going crazy. How did she react? Calm. She used her humor. She used it for her benefit. So all of this was premeditated. It was techniques. For me, it was just nature. For me, Magdalena will do the same thing with her children. She may do the same thing with people around her within her own personal relationships. And this is what I love about coaching/leader models. The idea of just being yourself, the imperfect self, and being enough. This is what I'm here to talk about. I do not care about who I am exactly. I would rather that you will get to know me from a kind of a connection that we will create. Maybe one word that will resonate with you. Maybe the energy, or maybe even my weird outfit. So bringing back humanity to organizations.
Yes. What are organizations? Is it companies? Is it something we work in? Is it more than that or more simpler than that?
I love simplicity. When we think about how human beings interact, there is not so many varieties. There is an individual who interacts with himself. There is a couple interact with each other. There is a group who interact with each other. And there is a group with a purpose that they are trying to move towards. And this is what's an organization. An organization can be a couple who have a common goal, who are trying to develop their own culture to achieve this goal or to reach it. So an organization for me is simply put more than one person with a common goal that they are trying to achieve. And when we look at it this way, things become much, much, much simpler.
Yes, that's true. Something happened to humanity the past years with all the stresses and the challenges the worlds go through. Something happened to us. Something happened with a lot of what's going inside of us as humans. We've changed. How can we bring back humanity to each and every one of us, to our simple organizations?
Again, as simpler we will make it, as easier to be applied from my perspective. So I always try to, because I'm an explorer, not a researcher. I explore the human beings and how they interact with each other. A very simple thing. Perfection separates us. Imperfection connects us.
Yes.
When Magdalena did what she did with the presentation, and I like to use this as an example because it happened as you are here, she did not shy away from her imperfection or she tried to cover up. And she did not even look at it as imperfection. On the contrary, she laughed on it. She just became herself. And for me, this is humanity. I can relate with Magdalena's falling down, for example, or I can relate with a person who have a bit of difficulty after a meal, or who wake up with himself not in order. I can relate to that. I'm like that. But this perfect person who is standing on a podium, that I did not see from him or her, but this sense of perfection. Although the person behind the podium, I do not mean to project that. But this is what I have been taught. As Robert and Magdalena were speaking about the idea of the model of leadership when it's more about power scale. You do as I say, and I will show you. So going back, humanity for me equals accepting my imperfection and using it as a bond between me and others. In Arabic, by the way, in our school, we have a very famous word that we all have a zift. No one is without a zift. A zift is a tar. The tar is this icky, accumulated thing that we have the tendency to cover up so it ferments even more and it divides us from each other. But when we put this on the table from the beginning, listen, I'm just like you. And it doesn't mean that I'm bad or good. I'm just human. For me, this is the key, ladies and gentlemen.
So basically accepting who I am with my imperfections. And then I don't use my ego, because we need to talk about the ego part, okay? I don't use this as if it's weakness, but I can use it as it's a strength point. Do you want to say that? Or I can show it to people. That's the basic part of it. No, you can cough. It's okay, by the way.
No. I'm listening. Coaches are very good at listening.
Yes, I can see that.
Thank you.
Because if it starts from that, and I think showing my imperfection, I have to accept it at the end of the day. I have to accept who I am, what I am imperfect at, to be able to show it to people in front of us. That's it?
I perfectly agree with you. To even simplify, because ego to many people are many things. And unfortunately, there was a misconception that we need to bury it, we need to control the ego, and so on. But simply put, ego is about the way that I'm seeing myself. I can be seeing myself as a superior or an inferior. Or I'm not really feeling this, feeding the energy over there to the extent that I'm invisible. I am what others tell me that I am. At the end is for me to be something more than being compared to others through my ego. You are better than me, I am better than you, I am less, you are less, and so on. It requires a lot of courage. I would love to hear from you one imperfection that you have that you can share with the people on your table.
I think that's a good exercise. You can write it down. Yeah.
One
Start
imperfection.
with one.
One imperfection. Wait, let's make it more difficult.
Okay.
Rana. One imperfection that nobody knows about you in your life.
Don't worry, if you don't feel okay with sharing it, just write it down. Because taking the first step is very important. Writing things down to acknowledge it is the most important step.
Please.
I don't see people writing, by the way.
No. They do not want any
As
proof.
like Robert, I like we're all perfect.
Do not push yourself too hard. Yet observe if you have too much resistance towards it. Observe it. It's okay. I'm resisting my ability to be vulnerable, or resisting the notion that imperfection is something that can be in the outside. It is something that needs always to be deep ingrained and deep bottled in. It's okay. And ask yourself all the other questions that you can ask for that.
Okay, have you done that? No, nobody's going to ask you to raise your hand.
Can I
and
hear
say it.
one? Yes? What's your imperfection?
Okay, well, I don't mind for one simple reason. I do want to remove the stigma, especially in between coaches, about something. I have been dealing for the past 3 years with severe clinical depression. And I believe people always have a negative connotation with people that have depression. So I have depression, I'm taking medications for it, and it's making me a better person. And it's okay to do that.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
You see, what Mo just shared, it may sound like a stigma for him or for a few. And it may sound like very normal, simple, everyday life for others. We are the one who give control, who give power to stigmas. We are the one who give power to imperfections. We are the one who give power to the zift.
Does anyone else would like to share with us? I hope by the next time. Oh, now I can see some hands going up.
We have two
Please.
more courageous people. I really, really love to please people so much. I go beyond. I honor you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. We have a beautiful lady over there. I'm sorry, I can't see you from the light. You can share with us. Yes, that's you. Yes. Emotional. But that's beautiful. That's totally beautiful. Being emotional is the best thing. Okay, thank you so much. Samir, would you like to?
You see, Rana?
Yeah.
What you just told her, that's beautiful. That's in your perspective.
Yes, yes.
But to her,
It's
she
not.
sees it as an imperfection.
Yes.
And she has the right to do that. It's okay. Some people, they stop sharing their vulnerabilities and imperfections because I do not want to be told that I'm wrong. No, but you're perfect.
Yeah.
And it's a kind of a reverse judgment in itself.
Yes.
And that,
In different ways. Sometimes it can be an encouragement, and sometimes it might block the person to even share more. Yeah.
it depends, but in the coaching methodology, it's about allowing the people to live their truth as they see it, not as the coach see. And that's why I love coaching so much. If it's with individuals or organizations. If you see that depression is your imperfection, it's okay. I will meet you there, as Magdalena was saying. If you feel that being emotional or even having emotions is imperfection, some people, this is their awareness with emotions. We go there, and then they lead us to where they will grow, and 99.9999% the coach will grow with them.
That brings us to a very important point, because, okay, I recognize my imperfections, and now I need to communicate, which is a very important part of the well-being of an organization. Oh, we have only 2 minutes? Wow, okay. So it's very important, because at the end of the day, we live in an organization. How can I build, let's say, an acceptable, nice, warm connection with the people around me?
Okay, it's a great question, Rana. For me, and that's just my perspective, not the ultimate truth. The leaders of every organization need to explore, or I will invite them to explore, how to make their organizational culture one that encourage imperfection, that encourage vulnerability. And I will not, as an employee, definitely I will be scared to share in a culture, in a surrounding that I never saw my leader really sharing their own, even a little bit. Wherever you are, and then you step forward a little bit more. You see, it's exactly like a family as an organization. My children do not learn from what I tell them. My children learn from what I show them. So it's all in my behavior. And this is why in leadership, especially the leadership models that embody coaching as a part of its core competencies, it's all about presence, because your presence is what teach others. If it's okay to open, or if it's not okay to open, and everybody will close. Even if you say the right words, we are not interacting using words. There is an infinite amount of information that we are exchanging. Only 7%, 8% is the verbal word, and the rest is the nonverbal. So you can say all the right thing, but you will only feel safe seeing Magdalena playing with the slides as they are not coming out.
Can we do a practical thing, because our time is over, just to enhance the communication between everyone in the hall? Salamtek. We'll leave you with one small practice that you can do, and I'm sure that you will be doing that more often with everyone around you.
I would love to. So, just one simple thing. Exploring presence. Look to the person on your right or on your left and create an eye contact for 30 seconds, just 30 seconds.
I know it can be very difficult.
Without one verbal word.
I did this like 6 years ago, and it changed my life. Yeah.
Hello. It's a non-verbal practice. No words, please. See how easy it is for you, how hard it is for you.
It's a non-verbal exercise. Okay. Let's thank you so much for the time you gave us to be in front of you. Everyone, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Last thing that I would like to leave you with as really a way to thank you. Please be imperfect. It's okay. And this is what will develop your life, your organization, your relationship, every single aspect of your life from my perspective. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Samuel. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. In 2018, كنت في عمان. I went to Oman. And I had training there. Actually, no, it wasn't Oman. It was Bahrain. It was in Bahrain. I had a training there. And I had to design an entire program for like 3 days. We were talking about communication skills and dealing with employees. And when I was mentioning this, someone was like, oh, hold on. You're talking about almost the same thing that another person did before. But who is that person? Well, he taught us about leadership. And do you remember anything? Well, he was a really good storyteller. He knew how to say good stories. He knew how to tell good stories. And he taught them about leadership through good communication, good visual images that came up on their mind, mental images basically, that made sense to them. And that was possibly the first time I started to understand who Ashraf Hilal is. A good storyteller, a person that is very well known in the leadership domain. And as a matter of fact, he knows how to talk to managers, supervisors, and leaders about how to deal and coach and supervise others in what they do. With that, I believe one of my main issues was how managers and leaders can actually deal with their employees. Because there's a huge discrepancy between me giving orders upon a task, me doing delegation, and me demeaning you with delegation, pushing you over to do something. Anyone here knows about the situational leadership model? Anyone is know? Okay, we have, okay. So, for instance, اسمح حضرتك Nada. See, we have directing in leadership, right? The first part in situational leadership. But what usually happens is, أنت كنت الأودينس الوحيد كويس معي هنلعب مع بعض, okay? Do this, directing. But that's not really how you do directing. And also, if we're going to the end of it, which is delegation, fly with the birds. And that also, is not how to do delegation. Neither this nor that. So it really needs some education. Managers do need to know how to talk to people, how to communicate with them in the best way possible. And I couldn't really think of anyone better who's the storyteller that I got to know about than Ashraf Hilal, who's the leadership coaching consultant. Please give a round of applause.
شكرا مو. Thank you very much. Well, لو حلفت لكم ان انا I didn't agree with سامر about my presentation we haven't lobbied مش هتصدقوا بس انا قاعد وانا بسمعه عمال اقول يعني احنا الناس هتفتكر ان احنا متفقين على حاجات so thank you very much. Thank you for paving the road for me. كان نفسي ان التوك دي تبقى كلها بالعربي واتكلمت مع نزاد على الكلام ده لان for me in the essence and the core of coaching الكوتشنج خدمة لازم تتقدم دافئة وقريبة من القلب وحاسس ان احنا يعني واحنا في مصر الجاب الحقيقيه في الناس اللي محتاجه يتنقل لها الكلام ده بالعربي، لكن we are where we are. It's an international type of summit. ف that said انا هو ده بس وانا اصغر حوالي 6 سنين، بس انا لما بكبر بصغر ف I'm much better now. I come from a leadership background and I'm proud of that. I'm 51 years old this month actually, and I spend 50% of my time in corporates, and I'm one big fan of corporates. I'm not the person who talks about toxic corporate environment and that type of things. I love corporate. I learned everything I needed to learn in corporate. But I had to shift at a point of time, and that was an overlapping shift. So I shifted in 2013 but without leaving corporate, to doing both things together, which is coaching and leadership transformation. And that was very important to me because it meant externally that I'm doing an executive job in one of the organizations and doing a coaching job in the afternoons and evenings and weekends, and then like emptying my life for only doing coaching and leadership transformation. But internally, it meant to me I've been working for 50% of my life on designing life and tuning life and developing life to fit for people. That's what I used to do in corporate. Now, and as this is very challenging, which is tuning life, so I decided to move into helping people and developing people to fit for life. So externally it's another job, but internally it was a very different perspective for me in my life. And that's why the leadership coaching topic is very dear to me. And as usual, for anyone who heard me before, it's very hard for me to relate the topic I'm talking about to what I say inside. So أنا رغاي الغبرة. So I usually, and I love philosophy and I love anthropology and I love those type of sciences. So help me and direct me and guide me as coaches when I go. So my agenda is, if that's a master class for leadership coaching. So I thought about my journey and I reflected while preparing this, and I thought, yes, I did have 3 obstacles in the beginning to move to a leadership coach from a leader. And I did pass by 3 milestones, actually much more, but I brought 3 here for like, it's a media thing. And I had 3 supplements that I've been working on, I've been adding, and I'm not even midway yet. So I'll take this, I'll steal it from Samir. I'm not saying I'm not perfect, no, I'm perfect, but I'm perfect as I am. But what I'm saying today is not perfect. It's not a prescription. It's not something that you go and apply for leadership coaching. It's just my journey. And my journey, you might actually agree on it, you might agree on some, and you don't like some other thing. And actually, you can say, tell me, no, I have a very different approach to that, and I would love that because not because I'm just humble, but because I knew it in the hard way that I already have some other opposing ideas to what I say. So I'm just on the way, and I'm sharing my journey as I go with it. So one by one, the 3 obstacles I faced was 1, my ego trap. I'm not talking about someone I'm coaching or someone I'm teaching today, it's me. I came with a lot of chains. كسيبة منور. I came with a lot of chains. Out of corporate, although I've been working on myself, I've been developing myself, I've been checking I've been doing the introspection work, I've been coached for years, but I come with chains due to like the context and what I come from. So I arrived to coaching rooms and started to learn about coaching with that very important label of I know. And because I knew, I was accused of being a good leader and a good mentor. And so I know things. And it's not only that I know them and I share them, it's actually, I have a proven history of success because of what I know. So I know, and I teach, because I was a mentor and I was taught to be a mentor, and I perform, and that was my biggest ego trap. So I'm used to performing. I'm type 3, I'm image focused, I'm a success person, I relate to success, so I need to perform and I need to shine. And why that was an obstacle with the coaching, because with time, probably a lot of people here in the room already discovered that, but for the people who's coming, I try to make you much more pessimistic about finding performance and shining in coaching. Not only the profession of coaching does not fit that shining aspiration, but also I believe in myself that shining and trying to perform defeats coaching and kills coaching at its core. So I was requested to do a job that I won't be trying to shine, and actually trying to perform well is not good. I needed to unlearn a lot. So ego traps was one of the biggest obstacles. So I arrived to rooms, but I didn't really arrive. And until in one day, I had a coach for me, because I've been having a coach for a long time, and I dealt with all coaches in corporate and out of corporate, NLP coaches, ICF coaches, presentation and media coaches, and some other coaches from different, there's a lot of professions that call themselves coaching. So, but this coach helped me a lot to think and build an intention of what I'm going to do, and think in a bigger way. So he asked me whenever I want to talk, because I love talking, to stop and pause for 30 seconds first and think, what's my intention of what I'm going to say? And if I'm happy with the intention, I continue. If I'm not happy, I don't continue. And if I have doubts, I just stay silent. And accordingly, 70% of what I've used to say, I stopped saying since then. Not always. Sometimes I start talking again because it's my nature and it's one of my imperfections, but I know that at least. Second obstacle was reactive design. And reactive design, I'm sure you know a bit of that. Why I call it a design? Because we've been created with that design. It's about protecting ourselves in different styles. So mostly when people try to protect themselves, they try to comply, please people, obey rules, go with the flow, or protect and make a distance between themselves and others, and this translates into different shapes. You can see it in different versions, or controlling, and that's the sexiest one, and that's why it's my favorite style. The controlling, that was my biggest reactive tendency. Why I love it? Because controlling comes in the shape of ambition, drive, high standards, perfectionism, and saying and telling and being knowledgeable. So it looks very nice. And I used it heavily. It was my life. So the reactive design just came in the way, and especially controlling, came in the way between me and coaching specifically, because in coaching, controlling, actually, you know it, you cannot control things. You cannot be very ambitious with a client. You cannot have this drive and passion. So I needed to tune down and lower the volume of my passion and my ambition and my drive, and connect more to things that I'm going to tell you in the milestones about. Labels. I arrived to executive coaching in particular. So first, and I'll tell you about the journey. I started with life coaching, executive coaching, and then something called deep transformational coaching. And I studied also something not related to coaching, like positive psychology, leadership transformation, and other stuff. So when I started in life coaching, I was over the moon. I started to learn how to tone down my control tendencies, my reactive tendencies. But when I arrived to executive coaching, although I was already doing some executive coaching for years before that, because I was an executive myself, and that's very attractive to organizations. They don't care about the title. I highly relate to what you said, Magda, which is, it's not like life coaching, executive coaching, sports coaching, relationship coaching. It's coaching. Life coaching, anything that relates to life coaching. Okay? So if my job is part of my life, isn't it? Then it's life coaching. And I actually, while I was doing executive coaching, I never felt unlocked and this encounter is going in a healthy way until I reach a moment where the person starts to tell me, I'm not feeling good, or something about home. Before that, I'm not coaching yet. If I'm still talking about strategy and business goals and the grow model, I'm not there. It can be a good coaching, but I'm not there. So there is a live coaching aspect here. And when I arrived to the executive coaching room, I found I was in a circle, and I was sitting in the middle of a circle, and I was the only executive there, like I was still in my job. And that's very common now that you find executives and HRDs attending coaching, but it wasn't popular. So I found everyone, like firsthand, hearing them telling me things about executives. They didn't know me, but executive is, a leader is. They don't have time, they're very efficient, they have big drive, they're pragmatic, they need numbers, they need ROIs. And I was like taking that and trying to reflect on myself. I didn't have zero of that. I'm just a human who was very scared in the room, trying to mask my imperfection, and trying to look like an executive, which is a burden, and trying to act in my organization and out like an executive. And actually, because I have that natural tendency of being playful, so I was always coached on that, like how do I look like? So labels come in the way. A leader is having something in mind about what is a leader. The biases come on the way. The biases like a man and a woman and things that we see on media, and age bias. And it's not because we're humans, and I believe we'll never get rid of biases. I believe that the best thing we can do is just being aware of I have biases. I still have biases, I enjoy them, and I embrace them rather than trying to suppress them. And the briefings, especially in leadership and executive coaching, it's a contract between three parties, not two. So when I'm teaching or coaching or helping someone doing anything for Mountain View, for example, I'll be talking to Russia and the person and my coachee. And that's a very sensitive contract because you usually start with briefing. And briefing is the HR or the person opinion about this person. And you cannot reject it, you cannot deny it. But I advise you not to be very impacted or affected with it. I was lucky to study that research thoroughly about the Pygmalion effect and the expectations you put on people and how you get from them. And that was like more than 40 years of research and a mega study that proved again and again and again in armies, in organizations, in companies, in schools, in parenting, that what you expect from people impact those people's behavior. So that's a very big responsibility for a leadership coach or an executive coach to handle, which is balancing between the organization objectives, the organization briefing, and the person you're going to meet. So if you go already with a bag of, I know Samer is very calm, he's introvert, he doesn't talk to people, he needs to improve his communication, and I have this in mind, that's a big label. So that might come as an obstacle in the health of the encounter with someone you're coaching. Let's move to the positive side. Milestones. How did I overcome those obstacles, if any? I'm not sure I already overcame them all. So number one is pausing. I needed to pause. I was very fast. And I have always this metaphor. I was like a car that is moving on 230 kilometers per hour speed. And that looks like, in a corporate life and a very, from leadership point of view, like very fast. And fast means achieving faster. No, it doesn't. Because fast made me lose a lot of shortcuts and a lot of joy seeing the flowers and the trees on the side. So I learned to be mindful. I learned to pause through mindfulness. I learned to pause through an intention. So I learned to set an intention to whatever I'm going to do. Even talking to my kids, and I can call them kids. I have 24, 22, 16, 12, and 10. So none of them is a kid anymore. Even the 10 one is not a kid. But talking to them with an intention is very different from talking to them without an intention. So before coaching, I need to have an intention. before learning something, I need to have an intention. Just know it, just as my coach told me about before I speak. And curiosity. Curiosity is humbling for me. And I loved it. Yani, that's the part that I accepted first from coaching, because that was the gateway for the coaching to enter my system. Because I love that. I'm an explorer too. I remember the best games I used to play while I was a kid is like putting things on things and trying things and things, even a nail in the electricity thing, and I got shocked, and a lot of things about exploring here. So curiosity for me was the main gateway to pause. So just staying curious with things. Milestone number 2 is empty. And I love that because probably in the third module of my learning, I had this message to share again and again, and I kept repeating it. Guys, I'm not learning anything. I'm just unlearning a lot of things. So I came with with a lot and heavy knowledge, and I'm just like emptying things, getting to doubt and question everything I know. So number 1 I needed to empty is the habit of doing. And if you know me, I was one of those human doings, not human beings. So I connect with task lists when I need to call my mom, because that's a very important thing for me to do. I put her on a task list, otherwise I might forget. So I was a human doing, so I empty myself from doing so that I create a space for something else. I empty myself from knowledge, not that I get rid of the knowledge or like erase them, but just open the pot and stay open for that to be replaced. And I empty myself of my beliefs, not again that I can get rid of my beliefs, but because as in the sort of on the way of like again questioning things. So an advanced metaphor of that would be for me like being a space at the end. Not that I'm there, but at least having flexible opinion about what you know. So I started at this phase of emptying to get much more flexible with things I believe they are wrong. I started to use the word wrong less. And I started to be much more open to things that are not at all like me. I can make the distance, but I just open the space for things to happen. And that's very important for leadership coaching specifically. And why leadership coaching? Because the coming thing. Because the third milestone for me was fill. So empty and then fill. And what do I fill myself with? Is new kind of learning. So I used to know a lot of models. I used to know a lot of techniques I used in mentoring. I used to know even a lot of that social media stuff of how I connect to someone who's sitting, how I talk to people in a room, how I make sure that everybody feels I'm talking specifically to him, how I look like and how I walk. That was doing. Just empty some of that and create a space of being. So I started to learn things like how I sit when I sit for myself, how I put my feet on the ground, and how I breathe, and how I listen. So habits of being, how I be present. Presence and space. And space for me is a kind of a very, very, this word relates to coaching. If you ask me about coaching, in one word for coaching, I would say either presence or space. So because space, I believe, is what's needed most in a very crowded world. We have less space and more of everything else. But this doesn't go without repeat. And by repeat, I mean you cannot just once go to a training, empty, and then fill, and that's it. Because you'll end up again in the very first situation you were in. You need to repeat that. You need to keep yourself. Don't close your pot again. So once you opened it, just keep it open. I'm not sure what I will see, what will enter and what will go out, but just have the courage and trust to keep it open. Supplements, because I go to gym and I'm 51 years old, so I need some supplements in order to like at least stay in shape, not to grow. So these were the supplements of me moving in the journey of from a leader to a coach or a leadership coach. I discovered after probably 1,000 hours of coaching leaders that knowing is not a good thing in coaching. It's not only not an important thing, but it's not a good thing. So as much as I know, although people choose Ashraf because Ashraf used to be an executive with that title and he's coming from the real life, ضابط من تحت السلاح يعني مش جاي ينظر علينا, so I'm not jumping out of a textbook or out of a training class. That was a very good reason commercially for people to choose me. But the more I know and I use my knowledge in a coaching wasn't very beneficial, by the way. Because it's not about me. That puts me back into the performance thing. Just when I connect to people with the not knowing, believe it or not, that's what's really rare in life. Ask anyone in any metro ولا في الشارع about an advice and he will tell you, even a medical advice. We're overwhelmed with knowledge. We are flooded with information. The thing that a leader or an executive miss is some space. I need to meet someone who doesn't know. So that we have a space and we can fill it together. So selling knowing versus not knowing was a key thing to me. And by the way, this doesn't mean that this applies to leadership coaching as a best practice and you can go and try it into حرين. I don't give any promise here. This just worked for me and for people who choose me after a chemistry session. And some people don't. Some people believe that's a crazy thing to like breathe them on or like having this energy, but I choose what I am. Telling versus listening. Again, you can tell a lot of people a lot of things to do, and that I'm not underestimating telling, by the way, because telling is part of services that is very respectable and they help a lot, as Magda said, when they are needed, like training, mentoring, helping people. For me, the coaching is mainly, I'm thinking because that was part of the next slide, but it came now. For me, coaching is that the main difference between coaching and any other human service is not what's written on the internet. It's not like looking in the past versus present to future. All that is good and applies. But the main difference in coaching than therapy, mentoring, training, medicine, engineering is that's the only seat I found that's really humble. It does not come to you with a rank. So if I'm a mentor, I'm coming to tell you part of my experience. If I'm a trainer, I'm going to tell you something that you don't know. If I'm a therapist, I'm going to fix you. As a coach, no, I'm not coming from there. I don't have a rank at you. Actually, you probably have the rank. But the balanced relationship looks like this. And that's very humble because on one hand, it empowers people. I don't have sympathy. I don't try to save them. I don't do that. But at the same time, it removes a lot of burden. That's a personal benefit. So I'm not responsible for doing things. That's why I believe, and I still believe, even with the advancement and development we see and the increasing number of interest in leadership and executive coaching, still executive coaching and leadership coaching is part of an advanced culture. So it needs courage and risk and belief from people who take that. Because although we have research, we have numbers, it's proven scientifically and statistically that you can make an ROI, and I don't promise that to a person. It's a core responsibility, and people and HRDs and CEOs need to know that. So we have a risk together. And last, showing, not seeing, and Samer covered that, so I'm not going there. So it's showing rather than showing people what to do, but also seeing people is very important. So seeing people, they have enough of visuals that they saw in the day, and they have a lot of presentation and numbers and slides they saw. Now it's time when you meet someone, especially an executive, to see them and see them really. Like be with them. Because what they've been lacking in the day, in my experience, was being seen as humans. Second supplement is purpose. I made that a lot of times, like working with executives and leaders on their goals and the organization goals without knowing where I'm heading or without them knowing. It's not important for me to know, but they need to know where they are heading. And that looks like someone who is lost in the desert and doing all the effort. So you can recognize the effort, actually. I'm running and running and running. And you can clap for him and see that that's something you celebrate, but he's not going nowhere because he doesn't have a compass. So, and then I discovered that whatever the goal is, I need to connect the client to the client purpose. Otherwise, I'm not going anywhere. I can save a lot of effort, and I can do a shortcut, and I can help people be better, not do better, through connecting to a purpose. So that's always my supplement. The thing I always use is connecting people to purpose. And I hear all details, and then the first question I ask after I hear any challenge is not about the challenge. I make that as a rule. It's about the person who's telling me the challenge. And lost is trust. And that was not only a supplement, but like my main calories in coaching came from that. Because I needed some trust, I needed some hope, because this sounds like mad to me. It sounded in the beginning like mad, because that's again a very big challenge of coaching. All what you can explain about coaching is something that you can find in books and trainings, and it's very superficial. But anything other than the 7% is the essence of coaching, and it needs to be trusted from the coach who's moving to be a good coach, and from the client as well. But this builds up bit by bit. So trusting the process was very important to me. It's like I decided at one point of time not to analyze, because one of my main basic competencies was analytical skills and critical thinking, and that I was managing a big budget. I needed to have that. But just trusting the process, like playing with it, exploring, trusting the client. And again, with all due respect to feedback and briefing from HR, you need to trust your client. If you don't trust your client, don't work with him. It's better for you and him. And you need to have a genuine trust. And in our school, we call it holistic trust. You don't have to trust the person because that person is 1, 2, 3. You need to have a holistic trust in the system. It's perfect as is. Because if you don't trust this person, it looks like you're standing in a big picture and you're looking at a special color in one of the lines, and you're like too much rejecting this color. But if you step back, he's perfectly fine. And I agree with Robert when he said nothing is, there's no uncoachable. Although we say it a lot in schools, by the way, because we teach people where to send people to therapy and where to don't continue here. But I don't believe there's something is called uncoachable. Anyone who you meet, you might succeed with him, which is coaching, and you might fail, which is coaching too. So failure in coaching is success, because it's a new piece of information you can get curious about. You learn something, and it's just one step in the person's journey and your journey as a coach. So trusting the client and trusting your intuition. And I needed to tone that a little bit down, because I used to process a lot and analyze people and أفهمها وهي طايرة, and I called this intuition. Then it took me some time to unlearn, then learn what intuition is and how to be connected without processing and without using my knowledge here. And that's it for me. So I know I know maybe I needed to recap from like a presentation point of view. So 3 obstacles, 3 milestones, and 3 supplements. Ego traps, reactive design, knowledge, knowing a lot. That's not needed. If you have it, it will work for you somewhere else. Performance and shining is not the best thing. This is not the best place to find it. So make sure you have another job that makes you shine if you want it, so that you keep the coaching pure. And the milestones were empty, fill, pause, empty, fill, and repeat. And the supplements were حد فاكرهم؟ What are the supplements? أنا بسأل عشان أنا مش فاكرهم مش عشان أنا بختبركم. Trust, humbleness, purpose. Thank you very much. I'm open for questions لو في وقت ولو سمحت لي نزادة ولو عندنا questions.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for your lovely presentation. I was just wondering if you ever had any second thoughts starting out your journey in coaching. Because it's kind of the same situation with a lot of us who are trying to jump or shift one of their careers to another career of coaching. So I was just asking about your experience with it.
Thank you very much for the question. اسم حضرتك ايه؟
أحمد جلال.
شكرا أحمد. بص يا أحمد, in my other, wearing my other hat, I teach customer experience and design thinking. So I applied what I know from design thinking to that shift. So I started learning coaching in 2013. I started coaching in 2014, and I kept my job till 2018. So I kept trying, doing prototypes and minimum viable products and putting this to trial and see how do I feel and what might happen in the market, because I had 6 kids. So I wouldn't risk like jumping into coaching. Probably if I was much younger or in a different context of life, I would do that. So what I always tell people, if I want to tell them something from a mentoring point of view about my experience, I don't cut ropes. I don't jump from one place to another. I do things. So just try what you're going to do, especially that coaching, like going and meeting someone in one-on-one basis and doing coaching. I never saw it for a family man as something that's very compensating that he can live with, especially if he has a good job. So I know that's very technical, but it always come for me like a very important value-based second job. And I actually advise people to be financially secured away from coaching. It makes it more pure. So what I applied was like gradually moving. I had to work at nights, I had to take some annual leaves and work, and I had to work in my weekends, but that was funny, and like I took it like a leisure time. I loved it until I faced this. I found this blessing of the tipping point of moving from coaching is very tiring, and if I did it after my day, it will add a lot of stress to me, to finally like dealing with coach as a cure. So if I have a very stressful day, I take a coaching session and I move and I go home much lighter. And then I started finding some connections that I can do coaching with. I started to have some affiliations, and then and only then I decided to jump.
Okay, perfect. That brings me to my second question. Do you ever get overwhelmed or kind of heavily influenced by what you face from clients and what they tell you? Because you're starting or you're trying to stick to this point of complete neutrality. So does what they say influence you in any kind of negative way, and how do you deal with it?
Yeah, if you mean about the encounter or the relationship with the client himself or herself, I don't agree, at least in my case, about the label of complete neutrality. I'm not that coach who doesn't judge or like completely neutral. I definitely have an opinion and judgment. What I learned is self-managing. And how can I question my opinion? And how can I not it? I make sure it's not part of the play here. Okay? Even sometimes I admit that, so that I make sure it gets neutral. So complete neutrality is very ideal to me, and I don't connect to that. Accordingly, I don't get overwhelmed. If you connect to these principles, you don't get overwhelmed unless you feel responsible. And I learned bit by bit not to be very responsible. That does not mean I'm not overwhelmed as we speak now in my life from other aspects. So I didn't master that in life, but in coaching, I believe I'm in a much better shape.
Okay, we have another question.
We have many questions, so I'll leave you, I'll let you manage the traffic. Radwa.
Hi, Ashraf, how are you? I'm Radwa Saad. Thanks for this amazing presentation. For me, it was a philosophy into practice. And I have one question about intuition. You have said that it took you a lot of learning and practices to differentiate between, is it really an intuition or is it something else? Can you share a tip or two? How do I get to differentiate?
I don't know.
Okay. Thank you.
اسمه حدس.
Ask someone else.
Okay, we have another question. Thank you, Radwa. كوسة وأعرف الراجل بقى.
منتهى الشفافية.
بمنتهى الشفافية. تفضل يا شباب.
Ashraf, first of all, thank you very much. I'm so glad that I caught your session. I just came in late. My name is Mohammed Shahabuddin, and there are a couple of things. First of all, 6 kids, right? Good luck. I mean, really impressive.
But I send the older ones to the parents' meeting, so I'm
Okay, that's good. That's good. It's good to have a succession plan. And I want to build on a couple of things, and I want to salute you for the mix of very pragmatic and very honest and very practical approach of how you're looking at things. This is really good because you tend to listen a lot to a lot of theoretical goody stuff where, like, you know, the peaceful thing, and it's just the internal dialogue is good. Sorry for taking that long, but it was refreshing. My question for you is about the moral obligations, the moral responsibility, the moral burden. It might relate a little bit to the earlier question from the gentleman, but I'm talking here about you, not only about your mental health or well-being, but I'm talking about that moment when you realize that your client, the person sitting in front of you, regardless of how clear you were about the trust issues and about the boundaries and about who you are and who you're not, when at that moment they look at you and whatever you say right now, even the simple question, is actually going to affect their life. And you know that because you know how much they trust you. And there's this moment of moral responsibility, but should I or should not? And then 5 minutes later, should I have or not? And then whatever happens later on, what the hell did I just do?
Shukran.
Yeah, and I'm asking this from a very practical moment. I had to fire a big fat client because I realized that whatever I'm going to do with that person is going to empower him, is going to be really good at what they do, and what they do is not compatible with my values.
Thank you, Shahab.
Thank you.
A question that
اشرف اعرف ان انت ليك الحقيه ان انت ما تردش ده موضوع
بالظبط الا في حضور المحامي
عادي جدا انا واقف عنك هنا ما تقلقش.
Okay. I have two answers here and they come from probably I believe they speak to what you really ask. And correct me if I'm wrong. Number one, I'll take it again, I'll see it again from Samir. I sense a lot, I hear a lot this moral responsibility and responsibility in the essence of what you say. And I'll use here a word that I used to hear from my mentor is ما تستقواش نفسك. You're not that important. You're not that important in people's lives. So question, what meaning do you give to this moral responsibility? Probably, for me, it used to come from ego. It's like, I'm very important, but I don't say that. But my question will impact their life. What if I open the trauma and I can't close it? The very famous questions of coaching. You're not that strong. Okay. People, at the end of the day, will choose how things will land on them, and they will choose what to do with it. So that's number one. And number two is actually an alarm here. I have a high IQ. And I'm a good investigator. أنفع وكيل نيابة يعني. So in the beginning of my coaching journey, I used to be like thinking that's very smart to talk to people and trying to find the impact of me on them and them. And then I discovered after a few steps that that's staying in my what we call level 1, staying in my downloading phase. I'm not listening to what they say. So for me, I'm not sure about you, but for me, I cannot help it being in this phase of questioning my impact and being present. I have to choose either or. So I let go of these questions and I stay present and I trust the process. I hope this answers the question.
Thank you. We have 2 more questions to come. Samir and then Ms. Hiba.
Second, what I would like to ask you, since you repeated things that we share in terms of philosophy and leadership, what kind of resistance do you usually see within the decision maker of organizations to this philosophy? Where did you find it the most?
Samir, I'm very politically savvy. So they can't put their hands on what you just heard. They wouldn't find it in what I do. I talk ROI, I talk contracting, I talk about logistics, I make sure everything is. But smart people sense it. And they sense it in the way that when an HR person asks me, and probably some people in the room, I have that experience with them, what would you do? What can you help? How can you help my executive? How would I measure the success of your work? And the first question I ask, what success would look like to you? And that's an amazing point. Because you usually help them see the person. You started coaching the person without seeing him. Because you started like supporting him with the surrounding. How do I see him? What would success look like? And you end up like doing some ripple effect in the organization. So number one, people don't hear me talk about philosophy as I do on stage here, of course, in corporates, but I never hide it. So it comes in this way. So I enjoy that seat of, that's what I do, and I don't have anything to do more. And so I don't face, in this case, I don't face pressures, but I face rejections. And like 50% of my contracts don't continue. Yes, after chemistry sessions, sometimes I'm happy with the other 50%. Not مش تناكة والله, but يعني I'm just being, that's what I do. Not that there are some other coaches who do great, but أنا بعمل الشغلانة دي because I love it, not because I want to do great. And I do great.
Thank you.
Because of that.
Ashraf, can we do 2 for the price of 1?
اللي انت عاوزه انت اللي بتمانج الترافيك.
Okay, so we take 1 here, 1 there, answer both.
Okay.
And be concise as much as possible.
حاضر.
طيب, I cannot help كده بس يعني since you said you're politically savvy بس برضو I have to pressure you a little bit seeing the infographics. يعني tackling the leadership and executive line of people in charge يعني we can see that females are actually taking a big portion now. Can you give us some insight? How do you see the coaching of females versus males in this area?
I love it.
You have to answer this, okay? Don't go political, please, okay? I want to know because we always...
شكله political.
أيوة, برافو عليك. And because we're seeing a lot of this in the market now,
yes.
And always females are being compared, especially the ones who are in leadership positions.
Yes.
How do they perceive the coaching and how do they implement it? Yes. And can you give us some برضو infographics, the figures or the numbers who approach you?
Yeah, okay.
Thank you so much. Don't answer. Think about the answer.
ليه؟
Don't answer.
ماشي. هجاوب.
تفضل. Yeah.
هاي أشرف.
هاي.
أنا لينا.
أنا مش إيه؟ مين؟
لينا.
نينا؟
لينا يا أشرف. لينا.
هاي لينا.
هاي يا أشرف. Away from the normal questions, I want to ask you as a human, as a person, what's the happiest part of your daily routine that you bring into coaching? How could this impact your clients? Thank you.
Thank you, لينا. هبدأ بسؤال لينا عشان أسهل. مو أجاوب يا مو؟
Yes, sir.
Okay. أحلى وقت في يومي, the highlight of my day is usually having dinner with my 2 ladies, identical twins, Sarah and Mariam, 22, at night, where they put dinner, and it's usually late at night, and this made me have this very bad habit of staying late just to connect to them. And this, I believe, as you asked me, this impacts a lot of areas in my life. But that's the highlight of my daily routine, connecting to Sarah and Maria. 3 years ago, I used to have 70 to 80% of my clients women. I have a little bit more than balanced of feminine energy in me. I was told that. That's why I jumped into coaching and that type of emotional type of work. وكده. Now it's like, for me, it's 50-50, or sometimes I believe after COVID, I started to seeing more men. I don't know why I didn't have that from research point of view yet, but people, when they become vulnerable, sometimes by choice or not by choice, they connect more to emotions and that type of work. Males are, I don't want to put labels, but males in general, or like masculine energy is pragmatic, more pragmatic, not that connected to self-development, to vulnerability, to being like open to things. So, but after they get coached, they are very loyal customers and fans, clients and fans. That's what I believe. I don't, and that's very personal, don't take it on me. I don't like woman empowerment type of thing. I don't like that because for me, it has an underlying message of giving more power from. So if someone is giving power to women, who would give it? I don't like the comparison theme, but I like connecting to women. They're more humble in my experience, and that's not statistically valid, but they're more humble, they're more easier to connect to, and they're more willing to open up and accordingly to develop. Does this answer your question, or you still have a missing part? في حتة قولي لي بقى الحتة دي عشان نسيتها. ها؟ بعد السيشن؟
بعد السيشن.
حاضر. Okay. طب does this answer part of your question? So are you أنت مرضية ينزل يعني؟ Thank you very much. I'm sorry هم وقفوا الأسئلة. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Ashraf. That was rich. That was pretty beefy as well. Okay, so أنا دوري إن أنا interject ما بين كل session والتانية to smooth things up. So one thing that you talked about معلمة معايا, it's the concept of trust when it comes to leadership. فأنا هقول حاجة بسيطة. Anyone knows what trust means? صحراء. What trust means? كلام كبير. ها? Yes? When you fall, what can happen? I can break my bones. أكيد طبعا. What if? Oh, what if? Okay, fair enough. I like that. What else? Tell. Believing beyond what to expect. Okay, nice. Any other inputs? Being fearless? I don't think so. Being fearless can cause you a lot of problems, and I'd rather be cautious about it. Yes? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's more into belief. إن يكون عندي البelief. Well, the definition اللي أنا بحبه قوي is from a guy called Chip Conley in a book called Emotional Equations. And he said that trust equals credibility times empathy divided بلاش كده. Credibility يعني ايه؟ مصداقية وempathy. حد يعرف يحط empathy في كلمة عربي؟ التقمص العاطفي. Being able to put myself into the other person's shoe مش التعاطف. So لو أنا عندي المصداقية وعندي التقمص العاطفي يبقى لو أنا هكمل الإيكويشن divided by what؟ إيه أكتر حاجة أنتم مضيعينها وأنتم قاعدين بتسمعوا لي دلوقتي؟ ميرسي جدا. Yes, exactly. Divided by risk. Risk can be time. Risk can be effort. Risk can be quality of something. There's a lot of different ways to consider risk. So that's what Ammu Chip Conley said. Credibility times risk divided by, credibility times empathy, بعتذر, divided by risk. And that risk can be anything. So the more you are credible with that person, with your knowledge, with your skills, with your experience, as per what you've been mentioning, and also you have that means of communication and connection, you are in a trustworthy situation. And that's the essence of being a leader. And our next discussion, we're still continuing it on with leadership coaching. And does it really work? Do people still need that? هل هي ما زالت product رائج بيشتغل ولا لا؟ ولهذا جبنا celebrities that can speak about that. So let's start with our moderator. Miss Shahira Rifat, who's our moderator. MCC, leadership and humanization coach. Also, she was the ex-president of ICF chapter and one of the founding members in the board. So, Ms. Shahira, where? Oh, there you are. تفضلي. Afterwards, عندنا Dr. Muhammad Tahir Kaseba, CEO of Right Shift Consulting, Harvard Business Leadership Consultant, Senior Director of Programs at School of Business and Executive Education, AUC. Dr. Another celebrity is Rasha Gamal, VP of HR and Culture of Mountain View for Real Estate. Ms. Rasha, thank you. Fadali. And then he's not a celebrity per se only. He's actually one of my heroes, one of the heroes of this establishment, this career of much. Without introducing further, Hisham Al-Gamal, executive coach and founder of Quest. And to end it up with the cherry on top, one of my very good friends, I do consider her a partner in personal branding crime because she's one of the best in that field. Miss Yasmin Yahya, MEA Region Employer Branding Manager at Schneider Electric. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mo. I'd like to welcome all our panelists today. And today we will be discussing the impact of leadership in organizations. Does it really work or not? Okay, so in the absence of awareness and the people who are reluctant to use leadership coaching, we usually tend to leap on, the worst case scenario. So we want to get your feedback, your experience, your knowledge, and your experience within organizations on the impact of leadership coaching. Okay, so the way we're going to work this panel is that we are going to be asking each panelist a question, and then we're going to be receiving questions from the floor, and then we'll be closing with final recommendations from the panelists. Okay? All right? Okay, so let's start. So, Rasha. Even though leadership coaching is widely used worldwide, however, it's been proven, and even though also it's been proven to have very high return on investment and very high return on expectations, however, some HR professionals are still reluctant to use leadership coaching. So can you tell us why is that the case?
Thank you for the invitation, and it's a pleasure being with all of you. And what a question to start with, Shahira. How many HR professionals here in the room? Got the minority, the majority coaches, so great. What's a great place and time to answer this question in a day like this, ICF Summit attended by such professionals, HR and coaches. But let me, if you allow me, Shahira, to reframe it.
Okay, sure.
I would say that HR professionals had to slow down a bit because of the negative perception that was about coaching, which is not the case now. Maybe this was 2015, 10 years ago. And thanks to ICF and everyone in the room who changed this perception. Thank you for ICF for the regulations, for the competences, for the code of conduct, which created safer environment. So I would say that the scene had changed now. Now the HR professionals are more updated with the researches, the return on investment, the ROI of the coaching. So they are more aware now of how coaching is important. Mm-hmm. And they are connected with professional coaches and professional schools like you see today. How many coaches and professional coaches and coaching schools now in Egypt? So I would say they are not reluctant, but I would say that it's the process of setting priorities, which is different among all of us. Budget is part of it. Time management of busy leaders in so many things, which is totally different from other leaders who focus on the well-being and the growth of their people and business, and lucky to be part of the system. So I would close by that. Enthusiasm is increasing, and demand is increasing. Awareness about coaching is increasing, as well as the number of coaches, as you see today, is increasing. So I see it's improving now.
Thank you, Rasha. Mohammed, since leadership coaching has had a proven impact over the past 20 years and is now seen as a must-have offering within organizations. In your opinion, why is leadership coaching so important right now, and why is it on the high rise?
Okay, I'm not a leadership coach. And I'm this thing that you guys call a consultant, that you don't like, I think. But from looking, the habit of looking at statistics, and I've seen a lot of the speakers talking about how there are a lot of research findings now that back up the idea of leadership coaching. One of them was very astonishing for me when I realized that, you know, they're saying that 71% of organizations, 71%, do not trust their leaders in taking them into the future. That was what we call a shocking statistic. Now, couple this with the fact that, you know, again, 84% of organizations see that there will be a shortfall in leaders in the coming period. So the gap is there. And on the other hand, you see that only 19% of organizations think that they are effective at developing leaders. So there's a clear, you know, gap. And this is where coaching, I think, comes in as a solution. So things like empowerment, getting leaders to understand, uncover their strengths and weaknesses. Things like the new insights that leaders get into their day-to-day job. That's part of coaching revelations, if you want. Things like improved communication, enhancing performance areas like innovation is a very critical point of why leadership is important. And overall, this type of free thinking and agile decision making, which I think is not becoming a luxury anymore. Agile thinking and coaching is something that goes hand in hand. So I think these are main reasons why it could be important.
What are the most significant leadership challenges facing leaders today, and how is leadership coaching used as an intervention to tackle those challenges?
Three things. So really, the world that we live in has three key characteristics that is really putting the biggest challenges on leaders today. The first one is the complexity. We're really becoming, we're living in a world that is becoming more complex as we go by. And this complexity makes it very hard for leaders to make decisions. بالعربي كل ما نيجي نظبط البنطلون جاكيتها تضرب يعني it's becoming so hard for us as leaders to find the right mindset to make proper decisions. The second one is uncertainty. So with all the changes, because complexity is creating a lot of uncertainty as well. And all those events that are happening and impacting us on day-to-day basis, making it very hard for leaders to make proper decisions. So in the words of Otto Scharmer is a professor in MIT, he predicted the current state of affairs many years ago in a book called Theory U. And he said in his book that leaders, we've always been able to deal with the situations and the challenges that we're facing based on our previous experiences. He predicted that we will not be able to do this anymore. We will not be able to learn from the past anymore. of course, we will still learn from the past, but it's not going to really give us the help that we always got from it before. And he said, you cannot drive into the future by looking into your back mirrors. So the leader today doesn't really have a very good solid basis on making decisions and carrying the organization forward. So the question then is what to do. And the only way that we can deal with this is to turn the attention from the outside, because the outside is so chaotic, into the inside. So the idea now is to really help the leader connect with themselves rather than connecting with what is going on outside. So things like asking deep questions about what is going on that is really challenging for us. A question about what are the assumptions that really has created this chaos around us, and how can we let go of those assumptions? And then the next step is for the leader to go into a place where they connect with a sense of purpose, the why of doing things. Because when everything really is moving so fast, you really have to connect to a place where there is a stillness and there is consistency. And this place is really inside us. It's the sense of purpose. It's the why of the person and it's the why of the organization. And only then we can let go of our assumptions and let come of new ones. And then we can make different decisions. So if you look at the things that I've just described, this is really what the coaches do. If you think about it, this is what coaches are actually doing. They are questioning what are the challenges. They are challenging us to shift our assumptions about things and to let go of those assumptions. They are helping us to connect with our sense of purpose on the personal level and on the organizational level. And they are inviting us to come up with new ideas on how we are going to deal with those challenges based on this journey that we have come through. So I feel that coaching is really one of the most powerful tools for leaders in a world that is full of complexity and uncertainty.
Thank you. Yasmin, how does coaching contribute to effective leadership development?
Okay, first I would like to start with that Samar Yahya, our HR VP, was supposed to be here in this panel discussion, but she's not able to be here for a family emergency. I think it's for my good luck and blessings that I'm being with you here in this panel. So thank you so much for having me. I think there is a mindset in organizations around performance management. How am I doing? Am I performing well? Am I doing a good job? The feedback of my manager, you know? And historically, this is not working because there are human errors and there are bias, as Ashraf mentioned before. So I think coaching helped leaders in raising self-awareness, and awareness is power. Once you're aware with your capabilities, with your shortcomings, and I hate to call it weaknesses because it's not a weakness, the areas where you need to grow, awareness around also how to deal with people, because your team is also a combination of a lot of capabilities and human beings and so on. So I think coaching helped a lot with transforming the mindset from performance management and how am I doing on the job into how am I being a leader, a true leader. Who am I? What are my capabilities? And how can I also make everyone in the team shine and raise their awareness about themselves as well and their capabilities and so on. So I'm seeing this firsthand, and I think this is how it helped.
Thank you. Moving back to Russia and getting a little bit deeper. In your journey of developing your people, how did leadership coaching impact your leadership team development within your organization?
As we all know, what we cannot measure, we cannot manage. We managed different leadership programs and transformation programs at Mountain View. And all of them had very important thing, the index for each program, so we can measure before and after. As you saw today in presentation with Robert, I liked all of these indexes were very important so we can measure where do we stand. And we started implementing different transformation programs top down to deepen the impact. So this was very important. And then we evolved from ad hoc coaching, which was started in 2013. It seems I was your first client, huh? Ad hoc coaching with different professional coaches here in Egypt. Then we evolved to more structured coaching programs, which were linked to different transformation programs that we had. Then it evolved to have in-house coaching unit inside Mountain View. I think we are one of the first companies that adopted this model. We have certified in-house coaches, around 15 coaches, all certified by one of the big schools here in Egypt. This helped us to make sure that coaching is an integral part of all of our transformation programs, and helped our facilitators of these different programs, all of them are certified now, to help to transform the know-how, to show how, to be how. So our people now have stronger contact with the facilitators of the program, because they are not only facilitators, they are coaches as well. So help them to maximize and accelerate the impact. We have many indicators that prove how coaching helped our people to improve, like the manager quality program, which we started. Now it's in green, which helped in reducing turnover. The trust meter that we adopt speed of trust model. The trust meter, when reached green, this helped in increasing the engagement. And the happiness index, we have clear happiness index. As Robert, I think he received a question about happiness. So we have a clear happiness index that measures from to how our leaders, their mindset is agile, is positive, is resilient. And this was very clear during COVID. During COVID, I can say that the program that we applied that helped in transforming our people, it helped us to not only survive COVID, but to thrive it. Mm-hmm. We are lucky that our business and our sales was tripled before and after COVID. Thank you.
Mohammed, from a practical viewpoint, why are organizations investing in leadership coaching?
Okay, I think organizations are coming to grip with the, how do I put it, the rude fact that the best individual contributor is not necessarily a strong coach. And you know, there are a lot of research done on that part as well. And again, another shocking statistic is that, you know, 1 in each 10 has the qualities to become strong leaders. So you have a lot of business on your hands. That's why you're leaving 50%, I think. Now, from experience and from reports and from what we see, I think there are a lot of benefits to having leadership coaching as part of investments of the organizations. But I think the top 4 or 5 that comes to mind would be things like improving financial performance. And I know that we're talking a lot about how it increases ROI, but I think the interesting part is that there is a correlation with bottom line financial performance, which is very interesting. We see organizations who invest in leadership coaching having better operating margins and having better EBITDA and having better return on equity. This is very interesting, at least interesting for us to explore. The second interesting thing, or the benefit of investing, I think relates to aligning culture with strategy. And I think there's a huge gap in a lot of organizations. You know, when we have the strategy clear on, culture can eat it. You know the famous quote, for lunch and dinner. Now, the third important thing, I think, is employer brand. Leadership coaching, there's a clear relation between organizations who invest in leadership coaching and their employer brand. It's always bigger and stronger. And consequently, things like employees' retention rates, they become higher. And last, and I think the most important part, is the increased agility level of such organizations. And again, like a lot of the cliches that we were using before, agility was one of the words that we we were happy to use as a cliche. Now it's not a luxury anymore. So if you look at agility as a must, you need to look at leadership coaching as a must. That's it.
If you allow me to comment and reflect on the employer brand in specific, the last report I've seen from a leading employer branding agency is that 74% of people, of potential candidates, post and after COVID, before COVID and after COVID, they look for, 74% of them, they look for coaching after COVID more. And it's one of the top attractiveness attributes for potential candidates, and it directly reflects on the employer brand. So, and for some organizations, they measure pride, whether the employee is proud working for the company or not. And we've seen this changing a lot in the past 3 years, that it's also linked to coaching. Like employee, they're happy to say, we have coaching in the organization. We have, we're applying coaching in the organization. So I just wanted to reflect on that, and I second your answer from the employer brand perspective.
Thank you. Hisham, now we know that why organizations are investing in leadership coaching. My question to you, what are the long-term consequences if we neglect investing in leadership coaching?
So, if you look at the challenges that we're facing around the world today, you will find that very few people are responsible for those challenges. And that really puts a huge emphasis on the importance of leadership. So there is a fantastic saying that says, when a leader whispers, it becomes a shout. So anything the leader says or any action that the leader takes, it really gets multiplied many times. And Samer mentioned today this fantastic example about Magdalena. And I wasn't here at that time, but it looks like I get a sense that this is going to be like a big event here in this summit, what happened in that presentation. It's a fantastic example about how the behavior of the person where everyone is looking at shapes the energy in the space and changes how people react to it. So a leader who stands in front of people and people are looking at him or at her, and then they start coming in from a place of tension, of directing, of anger, of confusion, that's exactly what will be created in the space. And on the other hand, the leader that comes from a space of stillness, of calmness, of knowing somehow that everything is going to be okay, and as long as we stay together, things are going to move in the right direction. That's exactly what the leader will create in the space. So this is why coaching is so important, because the investment that you put in a leader doesn't only reflect on that leader, it really reflects on the whole organization, really reflects on everyone else. So I would say that we don't really have the luxury of not coaching leaders, because when leaders are not coached, look at the situation worldwide right now. I don't really want to mention names, but I can, but I'm not gonna. Shaban Abdul Rahim, مثلا.
Thank you, Sheikh.
Finished, by the way.
Yeah. Yasmin, now we heard like why is it important to invest in leadership coaching, but I want to ask you from your experience, when do you feel an urge that you must use coaching leadership as an intervention with your leaders? I mean, and you need to invest in that.
Honestly speaking, all the time. I just second his answer. Honestly speaking, it's all the time. And by the way, from my perspective as an HR person, I've been working in the HR for the past 20 years. We've been doing a little bit of coaching years back. We just didn't know that this is coaching. Okay? We did it before. And it was by research and reports, it was more effective than giving a lecture, giving a training course, giving, like lecturing people on some information and that's it, and you leave them. Whether they apply or not, you don't know. So we've done that, a little bit of it, years back. So all the time, I think it's a cultural thing. It really depends on the culture of the organization and how transparent they are and how employees feel safe inside the organization. Because, again, we're talking about human beings. Some of the employees, usually get scared whether they will let me go. Am I, will I look like, am I not performing? Am I performing? So this is where they get worried. But again, if the culture encourages transparency and employees, they feel safe inside the organization, I think it will be an ongoing practice all the time. All the time you need to coach your leaders.
Thank you, Yasmin. And that takes me to the next question about building coaching cultures. So I heard fantastic things about you, Rasha, about building and developing people at Mountain View. And your story is very inspiring. So can you please share with the audience your success story in building a coaching culture within your organization and how it impacted your people and your organization level of performance?
Thank you, Jahira, for calling it a success story. Actually, I feel very inspired when I'm asked to share it. And let me start by sharing the higher purpose of our company. Higher purpose of Mountain View is to be a lighthouse that bring life to land. We are a real estate company and guide to meaningful happiness. So happiness is part of our higher purpose. And this lighthouse was evolved throughout different stages. And the coaching was an integral part of all of these stages. First stage, it was, we were focusing on the values, creating values-based organization, and Hisham was a big part of it. So at this stage, our focus was on fulfilling the basic human needs of our people, to feel safe by having values-based organization, and to feel connected by having healthy environment and healthy relationship. And then we evolve it. We use Barrett model as our map, so we know where do we stand and where we want to go. Then we decided to go to the stage of transformation, to do culture transformation. And we had many options at that time. But we chose the route of happiness. And we chose the expert of science of happiness, Delivering Happiness International. We adopted the model of delivering happiness, which is very simple. It's values-based, purpose-driven, and fueled by science of happiness, which is based on positive psychology. And we were focusing here on the light part of our employees, how to discover the light inside them, how to flow with their strengths, how to have resilience and agility using the science of happiness of delivering happiness model. And then COVID, we had all of us had the hit of COVID, but we had great opportunity of focusing on where is Samir? What Samir mentioned, the imperfection, the shadow part. All of us had faced big troubles, shadow of fears, shadow of triggers, and here we decided to help our people to transform but differently by integrating the shadow part, so they become whole. And we dealt with one of the big consultants who adopt different transformation model, Barrett model, U theory that Hisham mentioned. So we help our people to feel whole. And then now we had a pause. What will we do next? And then we measured our organization consciousness. We measured the entropy and the culture entropy. What's the energy drained in confusion and conflict using Barrett model, and we felt that now we are ready to go to the next stage. Now we adopt human-centric concept using Lalou model to achieve the teal consciousness organization. And as a business constellator, I heard Magdalena today, she talked about the multiple systems. Yes, our people are part of multiple systems, and to help them to feel whole, we need them to understand that they are part of a family system and they are part of organization system. I feel very excited as a business constellator to help the company to explore the DNA of our organization and make the invisible dynamic more visible, so we accelerate our growth. And then we founded a company, Delivering Happiness Egypt, to help other companies. So part of our purpose is to guide to meaningful happiness. We founded this company, a management consulting firm, to help other companies. So they have similar stories to Mountain View. And let me say here that the transformation to happen, it needed a lot of work. It needed vulnerability, it needed humility, it needed role modeling, and needed awareness. Awareness so our people are aware of the power of coaching and how it helps them to unleash the potential inside them. And KPIs says a lot about our journey. In addition to the reduction of the turnover, the engagement, which is 90%, and many of the HR professionals here knows how it takes to reach 90% as engagement. Our sales tripled, as I said. Our NPS and customer service satisfaction increased by 48 points. Thank you, Ashraf, who started the journey with us. We were awarded different international awards. We received the award of top employer in 2019. We are the first Egyptian company to receive the award. Tony Shea Award for Happiness Award. So it was a great recognition that we received last year. Our story of managing COVID is featured in one of the best-selling books, Beyond Happiness, written by John Lim, the founder of Delivering Happiness. And earlier this month, I received an award for being recognized as the leader of distinction for Europe, Middle East, and Africa by HR Today in Athens. So it seems that we are doing something good.
You're doing great. Congratulations, and it's really truly inspiring.
I have a target to win the award, Robert, the bronze. I put it as a target to Abbas, our L&T manager, okay? Okay? So our name will be in the slide next year, inshallah.
Okay, moving to our next question, to Muhammad. As a senior affiliate, I'm sorry. From your experience as a Harvard business leadership consultant and a senior director of programs at AUC Business School of Executive Education, what are the common challenges and issues with the traditional leadership development programs and interventions?
I think mainly three of them, and I think it's these three. The solution for these three issues would be coaching, if you think about it. So the first one is the idea of lack of context. A lot of the traditional leadership programs operate with this one-size-fits-all mentality. And I don't think this will work when it comes to leaders' development. So lack of context is the first challenge, and I think coaching has a lot to do with that part. And the second thing is the real world application. When you're operating with this one-size-fits-all mentality, you're just assuming things that the client doesn't have in mind or do not understand. So the whole idea of bringing real world applications based on understanding the context is very important. And the last thing is measurable results. The traditional way of doing things doesn't provide enough to realize the impact of such programs. And we're seeing this in the AUC, for example. That's why we're embedding coaching as a major component of all the leadership programs, because it does show things like return on expectations and these type of relevant KPIs that tells you the story. Another issue with I don't know if it's with traditional leadership or with organization taking decisions on leadership development, is what Harvard calls the dumbbell or the barbell approach. Since you're going to the gym, I think you'll relate. We're very heavy on the on the sides. We're very heavy with senior leaders, working with senior leaders or new leaders. And we're missing this part. I don't think we're focusing enough on what Harvard calls, and I love the term, what they call pivotal leaders. And this level of leadership is the level which takes things to the next level. So I think these are the main challenges with the traditional leadership approach.
Thank you. Hisham, As a senior affiliate at Abercane and a prominent service provider in the field of human development, what is the one thing you have learned while conducting leadership coaching and leadership programs within organization that you didn't know until you went through the process yourself?
So what I didn't know when I started this journey and I further deeply went into coaching is that what goes inside the person and the leader is much more important by far than what's going outside. We've been in organizations, we've been working so hard on mastering KPIs, objectives, strategies, plans for the future, mitigating risks, all of these things. We've really paid so much attention to this and we've mastered the game. The part that we have never really paid attention to enough is working on the inside of the human being, of working on the inside of the leader. I feel, and that's what I got to get out of this, is that what goes inside the person is hugely important. It impacts everything. It impacts how we deal with all these challenges and all these issues that we're dealing with. And I've noticed through my practice and through the things that I have done, the huge shift the leader makes in his organization or her organization when they shift from the inside. Not only with the people that I have worked with, I've noticed this on myself. The moment I shifted my attention from what's going on outside and I started looking at inside me, how do I see things? How do I react to things? What are my fears? And how can I calm down my fears? And how can I really come to act from a place of a sense of purpose rather than from a place of fear of what's going on? It shifted dramatically my behavior and my impact on people around me. I mean, even my wife is smiling at me now. So a huge difference when you shift. Huge difference happens when we pay attention to what's going on inside. And this is what coaching does, by the way. That we are in the business of helping leaders shift their attention from the outside world, as much as important as it is, to the inside world, which I feel and I think and I believe that we shape the outside world with the beliefs that we have inside us. And if we don't pay attention to this, look at the world that we're creating right now.
Thank you. Yasmin, my question to you is like, how did leadership coaching help give your leaders an edge?
Okay, so again, reflecting on the answer that I've gave you before, leaders are human beings, right? And again, it really depends on the objective. I'm not coaching my leaders in Schneider Electric to perform. I'm coaching them because they are human beings and it's authentic. Because they are human beings and I want them to grow. And of course, if they grow as leaders, they will grow my business, they will grow my employer brand, they will grow, their teams. So I think, and historically, before we introduce ICF methodologies of coaching in Schneider Electric, we've always used with leaders some other methodologies like LVI, like Hogan. So they invested a lot in the HR team to be prepared as coaches, and our leaders are very, very used to the conversation of a coach, talking with them about areas where they need to grow and how do they leverage on their capabilities and personal skills and so on. So I think when you deal with your leaders as human beings who are definitely driving your business growth, and I mean, all industries are based on people, right? You cannot perform without people. So if they are the people who are growing their teams and the business is really growing with people, and we're at the end of the day dealing with human beings, and all I care about is them growing as human beings, then this is what gave them an edge. They started to lead with empathy. They started to lead with understanding. They started to deal with their teams as human beings as well. They started to understand more about the personal lives of their team members. And this helped a lot in COVID, because we didn't have to invest much time talking with our leaders on how to support their team members in such difficult time. They already understood that I'm dealing with human beings having different priorities, personal lives, struggles, and it's a human culture at the end of the day. And this is the edge that I'm seeing in Schneider Electric through coaching them.
Wow, thank you very much. I'm just so amazed to hear human beings and being
It's-
and versus,
it's
you know,
humans,
like,
humans.
because before it was all about doing and doing and doing. So I'm delighted to hear that.
I think this is, and I gave Magda this comment. I think what coaching really is adding to not only organizations, to people, is humbleness and human connections. And this is what it added to me personally.
I can't agree more. Thank you, Yasmin. Moving back to Rasha, I know that you've been putting a lot of work into building a coaching culture in your organization. And it's not just a coaching culture, but now you're developing like more of a holistic organizational approach, which is music to my ears. And so from your profound experience, what should HR professionals start with to have a similar success story as yours? And also, what are the measures of success that you use to build a coaching culture within your own organization?
والله شهيرة يعني sharing success story is tricky and giving advices is very, very tricky. But let me tell you that it's a synchronization of different elements of being with the right people, doing the right thing in the right time, in the right direction towards the high purpose. So if I'm to give an advice, I would say that a very important, huge part of a success formula is the awareness, the having top leader and leadership team who are aware of the importance of transformation, aware of that the transformation starts from people, and the organization don't transform, people do. So this is very important. Leaders who are have the awareness of the importance of coaching as the way to transform people from inside out. And very important to have the HR as well. To have an HR head and have HR team with the mindset who are believers in the transformation and the coaching and the importance of people transformation. So this is very important. So when the awareness is a collective one, magic will happen. Nothing will stop the organization. We were very lucky by having aware people who believe in people in different departments, mainly the HR. I'm very grateful to the work they did with us. Another element is very important to know that we succeeded in many milestones and we missed many. And our learnings were mostly coming from what we missed. But what was important is to evaluate why we missed these milestones and what are the corrective actions. So the second important thing is evaluate throughout the journey and have a clear index of before and after. Another very important thing for coaching culture to evolve is safety and psychological safety. So people will not go for coaching unless they feel safe. They are not judged. They will not be harmed. And here the coaching unit that was developed in-house inside Mountain View did a great job in that, creating the awareness, sharing short videos about coaching, inspired by the ICF work, taking the needs from our people, so we provide coaching that they need. We added, for example, the grief coaching. It was very important during COVID. Even this year, we lost some of our people in the company, so we had to do some grief coaching, so we help our people to manage their emotions. So I would summarize it in an acronym way. I apologize for you guys. My mind doesn't work without acronym, and the team here knows that. A lot of acronyms, a lot of models, so I can summarize this in an acronym of C, S-E-A, Bahr. It's a C that we had to jump, to swim, and navigate during transformation. So S is for the safety, provide the safe environment for our people. E for evaluation and the importance of evaluation, which is very important to have the sense of progress. and A is for the awareness. And with the collective intentional awareness, many important things will be unleashed and will be achieved.
Thank you. Thank you. Muhammad, I always like to come back to you for statistics and proven, theories. And so my question to you, why is building a coaching culture within organization important?
That's an interesting one. Coaching, in today's business world, our organizations are filled with multi-generational workforce, right? We have all generations that works, rapid change and uncertainty. So a leader with all the answers is a thing of the past. It's not going to work anymore. So organizations are realizing, slowly but surely, that, okay, we do not need to have coaches all over the organization, but we need to have what we call a coach-like culture. So people need to understand at all levels within the organization how to ask questions rather than give answers, because in the coming period, it's, again, not an option. So I would say the importance is to move from telling to showing to coaching. Or in other words, moving from a push or a directive kind of culture to a pull or a non-directive kind of culture. So at first we start by saying this is how you do it, and then helping them do it themselves or helping them find the solution themselves. So I think that's it.
Okay.
Without any numbers this time.
Thank you. We're actually approaching the end, of our session, so we need to wrap up. So, if there's one thing that you want the audience to walk away with today, what would it be? Can you just give us like a recommendation or something that you would like them to walk away with? So I start with Yasmin.
Okay, so since we're talking or we're asking if leadership coaching works or not, I would say yes, it definitely works because we're human beings. Leaders are humans, teams are humans, and at the end of the day, I think coaching raises awareness, and I call awareness power, and this means we're empowering them. So build a coaching culture in your organization. Invest in coaching your leaders because they are human beings. And even post-COVID-19, leading with empathy is the #1 skill that we're seeing in all the reports. And empathy comes with humans, right? Humanity. So it does work.
Hisham?
I'm going to quote Samer. I think his message was really the short, very important message here. Human beings are the core of organizations, and we need to bring more humanity into the organization, and coaching is by far the best tool to help people connect with themselves again, because once they do this, they can lead from a much better place.
Rasha?
Well, I have many reflections, very challenging to find one, but I would say it's the why. The why, and I feel here inspired by Simon Sinek, who they are doing a great job with us, where they help our team to know, after they complete their transformation, to know their why. So the why, I see it as the lighthouse that shed light on our path as human beings, coaches, HR. So, and I will leave you with a message that I feel very blessed to have a why which is synchronized with the why of my organization and the why of our leadership. So the why and the synchronization. So this is what I will leave you with. Thank you.
Hamad?
Sure. Without statistics?
Huh? Without statistics.
So I think the one thing would be think of leadership and coaching as not as an augmentation to your profile. It's not an add-on. It's a completion of your profile. So without having this skill, your profile, whether you're a leader or a team member, is not complete. We are plagued in the business world with the word or. We have this problem. I don't know why. I don't know why we always question or short term or long term, media or creative. We always have these. I think we need to leave the or out of the equation and think of it as a balanced equation, and it will differ from a situation to a situation. So I think that would be the takeaway.
Thank you. I'd like to use what Magda said this morning, where it's that coaching meets you where you are. And building a coaching culture will just give you the tools to make a real difference. And I want to thank our panelists today for their generosity and very insightful information. Thank you. It was a great pleasure to be with you. And I'm sorry we don't have time for questions from the audience, but I mean, our panelists will be around, so you can go up to them and ask them if you have any questions. And thank you all. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, ladies and gents, I believe it's pretty obvious. What time is it now?